Hi, this is Les Levine, the self-proclaimed voice of truth and reason in Ohio sports. Andrew Berry, age 32. Kevin Stefanski, age 37. Meet Odell-Beckham-Jr. and Kareem Hunt, who are two of the most talented players that you've inherited on the roster of the Cleveland Browns. That is, if you choose to either keep or get rid of both, or if Jimmy-Haslam decides to make the choice himself, which is something we all should be afraid of. If it's a question of culture, forget about it. The culture of an NFL locker room takes way more than a year to take place, and winning is the biggest factor in doing that. This is not a time for showing off how mentally tough you are. Play the hand you were dealt, then worry about culture next year. Bud Shaw is here. More Sports and Les-Levine is on the air. From the worldwide headquarters of More Sports and Les-Levine on a Tuesday night, good evening, everyone. Welcome once again to More Sports and Les-Levine into its 24th consecutive year and seen exclusively right here on cleveland.com. Bud Shaw is with us from WKYC.com. Hello, Bud.
Great to be with you, Les.
Great to have you here. Weren't you just here?
Last week.
Huh.
I was here one general manager ago. So we know the Browns have finally filled the vacancy.
Right. Well,
it only took a month. But
that's a good point. They had to do it like presidential tickets. You have a general manager and his assistant, and when you're ready to get rid of one, you just move on up.
Yeah, I mean, you make the point in your opening comment, this is a very inexperienced group right now, and the guy who put it all together, you know, if it's fair to still refer to him as a baseball guy, that's where he made his reputation. Right. So it's an interesting group, but it's one that I think that they tried to put together, or at least had this in mind a few years ago.
I hate to be a conspiracy theorist. Mm-hmm. No, I don't, actually. It's okay.
Yeah, it's fun.
Did it turn out the way they planned it to? In other words, you had, excuse me, you talked to a lot of people, but I don't think they ever had a real chance. Maybe they were practicing their interviewing skills when the front office was doing that. The fact that Barry shows up at the end and waits to find out if you know, the guy from Minnesota was in it.
Payton?
Yeah, Payton, not Patton, Payton. It seems that seemed to be part of a scheme also, or am I reading it wrong?
Well, I don't. Maybe scheme might be a strong
tough word.
Okay. I think that it was always between those two guys, and I think they wanted to involve their head coach in it. That's what they said was part of the plan this time around, was to let the head coach have input into the next general manager, and I think, in a search for this alignment that they talked about, what could be more aligned than George Payton and Kevin Stefanski, who worked together for a number of years in Minnesota. So I think they wanted to see if that was a possibility, and I think it felt like a 1A and 1B kind of thing to me, but like maybe I'm wrong.
It felt like a musical chairs thing to me, where they said, okay, Kevin Stefanski, you get your first choice. You know, we'll take the GM, or we'll take the offensive coordinator or whatever, and you take the GM, and oh, your guy's not coming along. All right, you lose your turn. Now you move. You know, you get up and you move, and now it's DePodesta's shot.
Well, we all hope that they put more thought into it than that, but
maybe not.
Maybe not, from what we've seen in the way past hires have turned out here. But I think in a way they've always liked Andrew Berry. You know, he had a little bit of experience outside of the Browns organization in Indianapolis. By all accounts, he's a very bright young guy, but he's very young.
So is this the right team to have two young guys running the show? I mean, that to me is a question mark right off the bat.
You've got a very headstrong quarterback who, you know, I don't know if it's fair or not to say, but who looked like he thought he arrived before he actually arrived in the league. Right. And you have what we know you have at wide receiver. It's going to be interesting to see whether they decide that this is the kind of personality they want to give a new young coach, or that they have so much confidence in Stefanski to handle this kind of thing. But of course, that's what they said about Freddie.
Yeah. All right. So, you know, welcome to the NFL, or welcome to the head coach, and here's Beckham, and you also got Hunt along with it. That's tough for a veteran coach to walk in on.
Yeah, and it was interesting at that the Greater Cleveland Sports Awards when Stefanski told reporters that he was going to be sitting down with Odell Beckham Jr. the next day to talk about one of the things that they would be talking about is conduct.
Do we know that they had that meeting?
We don't. I mean, I don't know that. Maybe some other people have followed up with Stefanski and found out that they did in fact have it. But it's going to be one of those things. I mean, do these guys immediately respect Stefanski because he's now got the whistle around his neck and or do they hear enough things from other players in the league and at Minnesota who respect the guy? And I don't know. Did they start out respecting Freddie and lose that respect for Freddie as game day things
I don't think they ever had the respect for him. On Stefanski, there's no Minnesota guy here that could be the player to take charge and said, okay, he's doing it this way because...
Yeah. So, now, we'll see. Maybe as they put this roster together and they let some people go and add some people, maybe there'll be a few veterans from the Vikings organization maybe that come in here. But right now, it's a big, big challenge. And I'm not just saying that because we've seen with Freddie Kitchens, who looked overwhelmed by it all. Maybe Stefanski has been given this so much thought for so many years that he's going to walk in and push all the right buttons. But it is a big challenge.
Are you surprised that Peyton turned it down?
Not really, for two reasons. One is that he's been there for 13 years in Minnesota. He's got a family. He's refused to take some interviews in the past.
Right.
And plus, I think this is if you're going to come into this organization you're going to make that move to uproot your family and bring them here, aren't you a little wary of the fact that this guy fires general managers every couple years?
I think you take that in your contract negotiations and you get an extra $1 million here, $1 million there.
Well, I mean, but still, money doesn't.
No, you lose your job and you may not get one again.
And you've uprooted your family for something. And I still get the feeling, and maybe I was listening to I think Charles Robinson, who was on 92.3 today, and he was saying that he thought that guys who come in and interview for these jobs, they want to know how involved the owner's going to be.
Yeah, I think that's
not just like does the owner come in for games and talk to the team occasionally. They want to know if he's going to be involved every day. And that's not always a plus.
Yeah, I think that's the one that got him.
Yeah. So we'll see. We know Haslam admitted to the idea that, of course, on Mondays he sits with the head coach and the GM and everybody and talks with. No.
It's
as
Friday.
long as that meeting isn't a 2.5 hour, splitting hairs and parsing. And I remember when Mike Hargrove was managing the Indians, and when games would end, he'd been there for since 1 in the afternoon,
maybe 11 in the morning.
Yeah, and his door would open. It would be John Hart walking in with a checklist of things he wanted to go over from the game. And Mike was a former player, so those are things that are harder for coaches and managers to deal with, and people think they should be on the surface.
216-575-0403. You can email us during the show at thereal-les-levine@gmail.com. Bud Shaw is with us. D-Man Dennis Maniloff tomorrow. Dan Lobby from cleveland.com will be here Thursday. Brian Anderson will be here Monday. But we're going to find out all about cheating.
Because Brian Anderson's a cheater? That's that's kind of the segue here.
No, but he knows stuff.
Oh, okay. All right.
And I know that it's time for an opening comment from Bud Shaw. Go ahead,
Les. There's a video of Kareem Hunt being stopped for speeding, and you can find it online if you want. A year or so after Hunt went through alcohol and anger management counseling, police found a small amount of what they believe is marijuana and an open container of vodka. It was noon. Hunt admits he'd flunk a drug test if the NFL administered one on that day in the video. He was, for reasons that you can find on cleveland.com if you want to read the story, cited for speeding and sent along his way. Don't let this turn into a debate about the NFL's heavy-handed testing for marijuana. I don't mean it that way. This is about Hunt making a bad decision, not his first by any or worst by any stretch. Another Browns coach will talk about setting high standards for conduct and holding players accountable. Hunt is Kevin Stefanski's first test case. History tells us new coaches are evangelists who think they can fix problem players, and they're most often wrong. Maybe Stefanski is more self-aware than others. Maybe he'll send Hunt packing and establish a new code of conduct. In the meantime, welcome the Cleveland coach.
Why would you get rid of him?
Why would you get rid of him? Because you want to establish with people that you're not putting up with this nonsense.
How about
you're not putting up with guys being stopped and telling the police officer, sorry, it's my off season, I was having fun. Dude, you're driving around with marijuana and an unsealed bottle of vodka at noon. They smell marijuana in the car, according to the report. They think they smell alcohol on your breath. I don't care if it's the off season or not. When you're Kareem Hunt, that's not a great look. And I think the NFL will probably have something to say about it now.
All right. Do you think that the cop was overly nice and too nice? And
no, I pointed to the cleveland.com story. I felt like that when I first heard it, because there's an audio of the conversation in which the police officer says that he's been a huge Browns fan his whole life. In listening to the police chief of Rocky River explain how they handle these things and what they look for, it makes more sense to me that he decided that they weren't going to get him out of the car.
Have you ever pulled the I'm the Bud Shaw?
No. Yeah.
You haven't pulled the Bud Shaw card?
No, because I have a feeling the laughter would be too much.
However, if it's offered to you, would you take it?
No. I got stopped in Cincinnati once and had a long conversation with a police officer who told me that Pete Rose pulled that card on him one time and said, do you know who I am?
Yeah, you gambled on games.
And this guy played completely dumb and said, no, did you play for the Bengals? And he just infuriated Rose. And he gave him like as big of a ticket as he could give him.
Very nice.
That was the message there.
216-575-0403 is the number to call. The Ohio Lottery, do you know that the Ohio Lottery has paid out over $1 billion in winnings over the past 6 months? People are winning in record numbers, and winning is it's happening all around the state of Ohio. Play an Ohio Lottery game and play it today. You can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/more-sports-and-les-levine, with new content posted each and every day. When we get back, we'll continue our discussion. Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski. More Sports and Les-Levine continues in a moment exclusively on cleveland.com.
It's the biggest party for the biggest game at Churchill's Bourbon and Brew at Presque Isle Downs and Casino. Watch the game on our big screens. Enjoy our $20 all-you-can-eat tailgate buffet and win on giveaways throughout the game. Plus, we've got Bet America swag beginning at 10 a.m. when you make a wager on the big game. Make your reservations today at 814-866-8353. Presque Isle Downs and Casino. Winning any way you look at it.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had two choices. I was accepted into a four-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
This segment of More Sports and Les-Levine brought to you by Northeast Factory Direct, East, West, and South, and of course, northeastfactorydirect.com. Birthdays for today: Pop, celebrating a birthday, Greg Popovich, Maglio Ordonez, Jermaine Dye, Dante Culpepper, and Brandon Geyer. You remember him, former Indian?
Brandon Geyer, yeah. It's hard to keep track of all the outfield platoon guys that they've had, isn't it, over the last 10 years?
Yeah, you said in the last 10 years, put the lefty and righty together.
That should be the T-shirt, right?
Instead
We've got the T-shirt of all the quarterbacks. We should
Yeah.
make one of all the outfielders that have been played in the last 10 years.
I meant to say this in the last segment, talking about Kareem Hunt and whatever else is going on, and you wonder, as a fan, can you trust a guy like that with the game on the line? Do you want that guy who makes bad choices? Do you, from a football standpoint or team standpoint, Does that hurt you, or you just have to overlook that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think people feel pretty good about the kind of season he had, and there's probably some build-up trust in him because of that. I mean, he and Chubb were sort of the two guys that you could count on,
right,
in most games.
And they're different style runners.
Yeah, they are different style runners, but it's also a position that where you, as we've seen with Raheem Mostert and other guys, where you can replace talent with more talent and find maybe a different kind of back that complements your guy even better than Hunt complemented Chubb.
All right, before we get into taking a look at Stefanski and Berry, normally we would hold this to the end, but we have to do how come quickie grading later. You got a pick for the Super Bowl?
You know, I don't yet. I'm rooting. I'm rooting in this game. I'm rooting for Andy Reid.
Oh.
I feel like he was maligned in Philadelphia
right.
as a guy who just couldn't get it done. They got it done in Philadelphia after he left, but I think he's a good coach and a guy who's turned out really good teams for a long, long time and not gotten the full credit that he deserves.
We'll get a chance to do that this week. Andrew Berry. Well, if we take a look at the profiles of all these guys in the front office, just go get the logos from all the Ivy League teams.
Yeah.
Here you go. 32 years old, youngest general manager in NFL history. 16th GM on Browns history, 6th under Jimmy Haslam. Was the Eagles VP of football operations in 2019. 2 years prior to that, he was the Browns player personnel guy. Somebody asked me before I went on the air, how much credit or debit do you give the 1-31 era of Cleveland Browns football? Is he part of it? Did he stand by and let it happen? Was he living and learning? What happened here?
Well, I think that it was so clear that the mission was to tear down the roster and build it back up. That and with him, he wasn't the guy making final decisions on personnel. So it's hard to, even if you wanted to rip them for Corey Coleman, or could you really attach that to Andrew Berry? I don't think so. So I think it is hard, and you're also dealing with a coach who I think, could have, another coach could have done more with even the limited talent they had. So it's a really tough one for me, other than that I never believed in the whole idea that you had to tear it down to bare bones in order to build it back up.
Meanwhile, there's some Cleveland flavor in the game Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
You got Travis Kelce, you got Clark, you got a whole bunch of guys.
Yeah,
who do you blame Cameron Irving on for not making it here?
That's another one. I mean, look at Austin Ryder. I believe is starting out there. We know Mitchell Schwartz is playing. So the Schwartz one to me has jumped out, and you and I have talked about it, because they were not only the idea of getting rid of veterans and trading them and trying to get as many draft picks as possible. That's okay, but I guess that's okay. But guys like Schwartz were in their prime. They were 26-year-old players.
And somebody's got to look at him and say, 5 years from now, he's still going to be a really good player. Yeah,
he's still going to be a very good player. And in the meantime, whatever quarterback you bring in is protected by a good offensive lineman.
Right.
And so I never understood that part of it. I don't know why they felt that was an expendable player.
Well, I think he's kind of the poster boy for what went wrong in that era. And I think the Browns front office at that time, and I'm not sure who the GM was at that moment, but to me it was a final decision by Jimmy Haslam that here's a guy that wanted to check. He had another offer, and he wanted to compare it and decide what he wanted to do. Did he want to stay in Cleveland? Did he want to go with the bigger offer? And I think you got to let if a guy's in your plans, you got to let him have that opportunity to check it out.
Yeah,
which they didn't do.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't do it in other situations that worked out for them too, with Terrell Pryor, right? So I don't know if that was a policy that they had at that point, but it really does make you count again when you go 6th GM under, and you're like, how is that possible?
Since 2012.
And then you think Heckert, Lombardi,
sure,
Farmer, Sashi, right?
Yeah, keep going.
Dorsey,
yeah,
and now this guy, and you just hope as a Brown. I'm not a Browns fan. I didn't grow up here. But all my friends and neighbors are. And I just want to see, for once, I just want them to stick with, they've got bright guys in there now, and they'll have a plan for how they want to do this, whether you agree with the analytic emphasis of the plan or you don't. It's incumbent on Jimmy-Haslam to finally sit back and give these guys 3 or 4 years to try to get this thing up and running.
So Andrew Berry is the youngest NFL GM in history. One of the youngest coaches in the NFL is Kevin-Stefanski. Now let's take a look at this. Sean McVay is the youngest at 34. He'll be entering his 3rd year. Zach Taylor. Then you've got Stefanski is 3rd. Brian Flores, Joe Judge, Kyle Shanahan. That's another one. That's a guy. If you didn't give up on him, who knows what would have happened.
Well, he gave up on them.
Well, but it didn't happen.
For good reason.
Matt LaFleur and Cliff Kingsbury, all under 40 or under. So, what do we expect out of this group? You got Stefanski, who's going to run into stuff he's never seen before.
Yeah, I mean, McVay is obviously, has been to a Super Bowl already. Didn't have the kind of season he wanted, follow-up season he wanted. People I know down in Cincinnati have a lot of really good things to say about Zach Taylor, but we know what that season was all about.
Sure.
We saw that season in Cleveland a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So you just have to give these guys, and I was all for firing Freddie Kitchens, by the way, because I think that he was forced into a job that he wasn't ready for, and they ought to know if Stefanski's ready. They've looked at him for 2 years now.
Right.
So they felt strongly about him last year. They feel strongly about him this year. For everybody's sake, I hope they're right for once.
216-575-0403 is the number to call. Northeast Factory Direct, East and West and South. There are the locations, West 140th the street in Cleveland. You've got Lakeland Boulevard, that's the old B&B Appliance Building in Euclid, and Freeway Drive in Macedonia. Also, before you go anywhere, go to the website, northeastfactorydirect.com. Find out all you can about not only furniture, but hot tubs and cabinets and you name it, they've got it, and they've got it at 50, 60, 70% less than you're going to pay at the big box stores. That's northeastfactorydirect.com. When we get back, we'll update Stefanski's coaching staff. There's a lot of updating to do, or a lot of holes in it right now. And I don't know if they've lost anybody to these other teams who changed coaches, but we'll check it out, see what we've got. When we get back with Bud Shaw, More Sports and Les-Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
Celebrate Naturestone's 30-year anniversary with a free Naturestone floor. During 2020, we will be giving away 30 free floors to 30 very lucky customers to say thank you for making Naturestone the best concrete flooring solution for garages, basements, and more. Call or visit naturestone.com today to register to win, and we'll send you a copy of our new buyer's guide absolutely free. There's no purchase necessary. Winners will be chosen monthly. With over 30 million square feet installed for more than 60,000 customers, it's easy to see why I always say it's not just a floor. Wow, it's Naturestone.
Just because I'm not $1 million price doesn't mean I'm worthless. We middle prices get zero respect. We're worth hundreds, even thousands. I mean, I'm a handsome bag of money. And there's $110 million worth of us in the Ohio Lottery Cash Celebration scratch-off alone. Plus, the odds of winning are off the chart. 1 in 3.
Play the $30 cash celebration for a chance to win up to $1 million.
You see?
Oh, and lots of prizes between $100 and $1,000.
Everybody wants $1 million. Would $500 be so bad? Come on.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Time for a How Come Quickie. How come the Miss Universe contest winner is always from Earth? quick.
It's like when the World Series was always played
Yeah. What about Japan?
in the United States.
Well, Japan, most of the teams, I think, have English numeral or English letters on their shirts.
That's right.
Huh.
We should play champion of the Major League Baseball against other champions around the world.
Like just an open tournament where everybody can cheat, or just Houston?
Now, I like our chances against the Uzbekistan. I ran into somebody recently who told me that they played baseball against, they were an exchange student and they played baseball over in England. And I said, well, how were the players over there? And they said, really terrible.
Not just terrible,
Just really
terrible.
Yeah.
All right. Should I be concerned with the fact that we're almost into February and have no real extra assistant coaches?
They're a dime a dozen.
That's well, no wonder they can't get any. That's what they're offering. Let's take a look at what is on the staff right now. Vacant seems to be doing very well. And how about they went so far they went and got almost the MVP from the 1997 World Series, Chad O'Shea. Oh, that's Chad O'Shea. All right, so the offensive coordinator vacant, quarterbacks coach vacant. Stump-Mitchell returns. Bill-Callahan comes on. That's a good hire. And there you see the tight ends coach. And by the way, Freddie Kitchens is the new tight ends coach of the New York Giants.
Yeah, I saw that.
Keeping his name in the loop.
The guy who must have really loved football if he didn't want to take a year off after that season.
Let's continue on. You got the defensive coordinator is vacant at this moment. His cousin vacant is the defensive line coach. Linebacker vacant. Defensive backs vacant. And again, wouldn't you think if, as Stefanski got hired, that old hip pocket thing that they're supposed to have with names of guys they would take with them?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a few of those, but I also think we're going to see a lot of those get filled as soon as the final gun goes off in the Super Bowl.
Let's go to, oh, that's true. Good point. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Devin in Concord. Devin, good evening.
What's going on, you guys?
Hey, Devin.
How you doing? Sorry we messed you up. You're a little early tonight.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
I was almost not going to answer the phone call when I called
You only have
back.
33 minutes to talk.
Hey, a couple quick questions before I get going here. One for both you guys. Is Eli a Hall of Famer?
It's funny. I just read this story that I came across on Pro Football
Oh,
Talk.
not that I couldn't have read it myself.
Yeah, well, I just pointed it out to Les. I don't know if you saw it, Devin, but I guess Deion Sanders told Dan Patrick that he thinks too many guys are going into the NFL Hall of Fame. That it used to be a real select group, and now because they have a minimum of 6, I think, each class, that it's just being filled up with guys that really don't belong.
Did he have anybody in mind?
I'm getting around to this. He wouldn't name any names when Patrick asked him, but Patrick then at the end said something like, well, you know, do you think Eli Manning is going to be going in? And apparently Deion said, you get my point. So Deion is voting no, I think, on Eli Manning. I haven't really given it that much thought. I mean,
Do we assume that Hall of Famers get a vote on new Hall of Famers coming in?
I don't know.
I mean, I know the Heisman Trophy guys.
Yeah,
get
I don't
the
know
vote.
how that works. I'd have to ask Tony Grossi, and Mary Kay Cabot, who also has a vote. And
Right.
No, I don't think players get that.
Yeah,
I think there's just a handful of players. Like
Yeah, I think that's why that
Veterans
Veterans Committee is around to supposedly clean up players that they think the regular Hall of Fame selection committee forgot.
I was surprised.
Looked
Number
past.
one, I was surprised that Art Modell didn't make it this time around. But I was more surprised that he didn't make it and Max Speedy did. Now, if Speedy is not one of the guys you'd think of in the early formation of the Browns, but when you check out the numbers, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. How about you, Devin? Do you think Eli is?
Well, I mean, I hate the whole thing about the guy didn't win a Super Bowl, but this guy did,
Yeah.
so he deserves it. You know, I mean, when you look at Eli, do you see, like, on a Sunday against Arizona, does it look like he's a Hall of Famer?
Yeah.
No, but
I mean, when you saw Marino,
Yeah, I
you knew
agree.
it.
I mean, it was like, oh my God, that guy is, I mean, just jumped off the screen.
I heard somebody make an argument against Eli by saying, well, all right, he won 2, but if there wasn't that phenomenal catch, he only wins 1. Well, there are phenomenal catches that
Yeah,
happen
I guess
in
you
games.
could argue, you could say, well, he only won one more Super Bowl than Trent Dilfer, so why is Super Bowls alone
Or
the
Hostetler.
criteria?
Or
Sure.
Jim McMahon or,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Brad Johnson.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, are they the only ones who deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? I doubt it.
And why isn't Eric Coryell in the Hall of Fame? I mean, the guy created an offense that's still being used today.
Yeah, and
Why? Because he didn't win one.
Yeah.
Well, there's more to it. He also had no presence on television networks after he retired.
Yeah.
Right.
That
Like
might
we were
be
talking
it.
last week about Deerdorf and,
You know,
and
I
Cowher.
lived out
they're
there.
on TV all the time after they retired, so that, that guy's got to be good.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I lived out in San Diego for a couple years.
Wait, let me finish laughing. Okay.
No, I did mean that. I was talking over him. But I was out there when Coryell was coaching that team, and you know, when they had Chuck Muncie and Dan Fouts and Kellen Sr. and, you know, what a tremendous offense. And I used to laugh because they would, you know, you'd be out there and we could watch it all practice back then. And you'd stand there for 2.5 hours watching practice, and about 2 hours and 10 minutes of it was offense. And then he'd say, all right, defense, get over here. You know?
Did they let you have water breaks?
And you know, Fouts is another guy that never won one, but was a ridiculously great quarterback.
I agree.
Second guy to get 4,000 yards.
Yeah.
Hey, here's a quick trivia for you guys. First guy to get it was Namath. Second guy was Fouts. Who was the third guy to throw for 4,000?
Wow.
You'll never guess.
All right, then tell us.
Jeff
Brian
George.
Sipe.
Oh, really?
Oh, Brian Sipe.
Yeah.
Brian Sipe?
He was good.
Yeah. Hey, but which one was bigger for you as a Philly guy? The Eagles or the Charlie Manuel Phillies?
Oh, it was the Eagles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, growing up, it was, But when the Eagles won it, I mean, that was the team that I watched. You know, I watched games with my father, my uncles, and
Bill Berge and all those good old days.
Yeah, and I ended up covering the team that went in '80 when Vermeil was there. And
how about Harold Carmichael?
Harold Carmichael and Jaworski and Wilbur Montgomery.
How could you not throw him 20 passes a game?
Yeah.
He's 7'9".
Yeah. You know, Jaworski had a horrible game. God, I hated the Raiders back then so bad too.
Yeah, that team that team was pretty wiped out by the time it got to when those lights went on for that game. They looked like they were just beat. And Vermeil admitted later that he just wore them out. He was, you know, practicing them really hard all week, and he only had one gear, and I think it cost them a little bit. But they had nothing left. And it looked like they had stage fright.
In New Orleans all week.
Yeah.
You know, the Raiders just didn't even, like, there was nothing. They just...
Yeah, that's when Matuzak played for the Raiders. I remember him, you know, him laughing about being out until 3 or 4 in the morning, and Tom Flores was the coach at the time, and he was like, "Oh, okay, that's the twos, you know, he'll be there on Sunday for us." And Vermeil was apoplectic about it. He was like, they asked him, "What would you do if your players, you know, broke curfew?" And he said, "I'd send them home right now. I wouldn't care who it was, you know."
Yeah.
And both teams played like their head coaches.
Father Shaw, I was a little taken aback by your cutting of Kareem Hunt there a little bit. You know.
I'm not saying they should. I'm saying I would understand it if they did it.
I'm kidding, but
you don't think we have enough talent without guys like that?
I think he's one of those special talent guys.
He is. No, you're right about that.
You know, Kareem Hunt's one of those special talent kind of backs. You know, and
can I ask you let me ask you a naive question, Devin. Can you trust the game to guys who have that thought process? Can you trust, as a fan, and the big play is on the line or the big game is on the line, do you really want that guy being the guy you entrust the game with?
Well, I think you guys know this story. Belichick told a story about, they used to hire a private detective to follow Lawrence Taylor on Friday after the walkthrough, okay? And he would lose the guy in Manhattan somewhere, okay? And he would come flying into the Meadowlands on Sunday morning, about 80 miles an hour, doing 180s. He'd block a punt, have 2 sacks and a pick.
Imagine how good he could have been.
Yeah, imagine how good, right? It's like the old Mickey Mantle thing, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if he wasn't boozing all night.
Right, right.
Hey, but to go to this whole Sashi thing, and like I've never had a one-loss record attached to a front office like everyone attaches this to the Browns. That front office had us 1-31. And if you look back at it, that front office at Hugh, like Hugh's attached to that. Not, they should have won 4 games the way the Miami Dolphins did.
Okay, but wait, you have to at least admit that what they did was so extreme that no other front office has done that.
You mean to have Joe Thomas, Batonio, Zeitler, and Treader as your offensive line and have Hyde and
Duke
Johnson
continually
as your
pass.
running back, and you had a coach that sat there and threw the ball with Kaiser like you had Marino?
No, to trade down and give up talented players to pick Corey Coleman and keep amassing talent in back ends of drafts, and to trade Mitchell
100%.
Schwartz, to get rid of Joe Hayden, to get rid of like the guys that gave you like some presence. Or not that they did it in every position. You make a good point.
No, but if you're going to talk about culture, those are the culture guys you do want.
Right, but I'm just saying, I think the front office, I think the approach that Dee Podesta put in place was partly responsible for them being a really terrible 2 seasons. I don't necessarily attach it to Sashi, and I certainly don't attach it to Andrew Berry, but I do think that the plan that they came up with lent itself to being a bottom feeder in the league for 2 years. Hugh did the rest.
They built, and then the other thing is, like, remember how much Sashi took for not trading for A.J. McCarron? Hugh wanted to give up a 2 and a 3.
Oh, that was ridiculous. That was one of the really good moves that Sashi made.
He pulled the plug, I think, so the fax machine wouldn't work.
And that was a great offensive line. And Hyde and Duke aren't bad players. Game day prep came into play again with Hugh, and adjustments came into play, and the ability to motivate came into play. I know that the friggin' Schwartz thing was the worst, hands down.
Yeah, I think he's the poster boy for that.
He's young and whatever. But of those 23 guys that they drafted, I don't know, I think like 19 are still playing in the league. Like Agba and Nassib, I would take over Olivier Vernon and Chad Thomas right now.
And you're stuck with a lot of money on Vernon.
He's got to be gone.
Yeah. Devin, we got to go. Good to talk to you as always.
All right, boy.
216-575-0403 is the number to call. Still some openings on the special teams and the defense. We'll check out that and more. Tri-C is the place you can go. You can explore your interests. Find a program that puts you on a path to a bright future. Tri-C offers more than 1,000 courses and over 140 career and technical programs. Go to tri-c.edu to find out more information. We'll find out if you think that Baker-Mayfield will be okay this year. We'll check that out and more with Bud Shaw. More Sports and Les-Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had 2 choices. I was accepted into a 4-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family warm this winter,
here, let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant. Whatever it takes.
And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at smiley1.com.
This portion of ms&ll brought to you by NortheastFactoryDirect.com. Bobby Garrett in 1954, Bud, was drafted by the Browns as a quarterback from the West Coast, and that was with the first overall pick. He was traded to Green Bay when the Browns discovered that he stuttered and he couldn't call the plays.
Ow.
Now, you'd think with combines today that probably wouldn't happen.
Would have come up.
216-575-0403. Let me just take a look at an email that has nothing to do with what we talked about tonight, but it's something we should explore sometime soon. This is from Gene in North Olmsted. Hi, Les. I know you've been more negative on having robot umpires behind home plate. Don't you wish you would have had one in the 1995 World Series? I wish I would have. Absolutely. You got to have them in that series. Have we added to the myth of what happened in that series? Have we talked ourselves into believing that the umpiring was really, really bad with the strike zone?
Well, yeah.
You were there, right?
I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were people in the press box saying, what the heck was that?
Well, I mean, we were watching the game live and weren't really watching the monitors as closely, but I know people who watched it on TV were even more dumbfounded by some of the calls.
Eastside Eddie writes in, Bud, how loudly does it scream that Peyton passed on this job? I think it screams loudly and says there's so much wrong in Cleveland, I'd rather be unemployed.
Well, he's not unemployed.
No.
But, yeah, I mean, it's hard to know whether he got antsy about the organizational structure or if it was more of a personal thing for him because he has turned down other interviews before.
Right, but
in
you
other
had
positions.
the added factor that Stefanski was
and
the
plus
guy's going to work
spending
with.
2 full days here interviewing, you'd think that something in the end gave him real pause, and maybe it was more than just family concerns.
Who did we hear when the Browns drafted Baker-Mayfield? What quarterback did we hear a lot about that he might be compared to down the road?
Compared to?
Yeah.
Russell Wilson?
No, Brett Favre. Remember a lot of people were saying that?
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the couple of seasons for the two. This is the first season. Of course, a couple of games before that, Favre was with Atlanta, but this is what counts on his permanent record. And the 1992 season versus 28, and there you see it, 64% for Favre, almost 64%, so that's right together. 18 touchdowns for Favre and 27 for Baker Mayfield. 13 INTs versus 14. So they look like they were on a collision course, right? Similar start. So let's see what happened in the second year between the two. Here's where Favre starts going. 19 touchdowns versus 22, though, for Baker Mayfield. 3,300 yards versus 3,800 yards. So, again, they're comparable.
Mm-hmm.
Now we go to Favre's third season. The comparable stuff goes out the window. 363 completions in 582 attempts, 3,882 yards, 33 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. I'd take that in any given year, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I mean, I think it underscores how important this season is and for Mayfield. But I still believe, I'm not comparing him to Favre. I'm just saying I still believe that he's got the tools to be a really good NFL quarterback for a long time.
But I'm not sure who it would have been. I don't see the comparison between the two anyway. Favre is kind of a big swashbuckling guy, and
well, I don't know physically that he's a huge guy, but he certainly had a big arm.
Right.
But he did play sort of. I mean, my bigger criticism of Baker Mayfield after watching him last season is that, he thinks every play is alive, and sometimes they're not. Just throw the ball away. Don't throw it 100 miles an hour down the middle of the field.
Yeah, but you know what? When he sees other guys do it, he's got to say, well, I can do that.
Well, apparently he thinks he can, but the interception numbers show that he shouldn't have.
Can we assume when Stefanski was interviewed here that he was all in on Mayfield?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know what the definition of all in is. I'm certain that he sees talent there and believes that he can bring out the best in this guy. I mean, Cousins obviously was a flawed quarterback, and they seemed to get a lot out of him this year, whether that was all Stefanski or if it was Kubiak or whoever else, but they did get a lot out of him this year.
Okay, you may not know this, but I never have actually coached in the NFL.
I was not aware of that.
But I would think that you'd want to shorten the game or the chances of the quarterback to mess up, especially when you have a running game. If you don't have a running game, maybe you got a problem. But this running game is as good as there is in the league.
Well, I think Freddie came into this with the idea that he knew the only reason he got this job was
Baker.
For Baker and the creative call playing that he showed in those games late in that season. And I think to a fault, when his default setting was throw the ball, use Baker's talents to get us out of trouble or to win games, when in fact he could have served everybody. Everyone would have been better served had he modified it and recognized that Baker-Mayfield was not having a great season, whether it was all on Baker-Mayfield or whether partly it was Freddie Kitchens. But I don't think he ever made the adjustment. And I also think he felt like, well, we've got this squeaky wheel wide receiver out there that we need to get the ball to.
You also have to, one of the reasons I didn't want the head coach to also be doing the play calling.
Which could happen again, apparently.
It could happen again. But it seems to me that when you're in the middle of the game and things are going quick, 90 miles an hour on the sideline, you don't have to think about scoring every series that you have the ball. Sometimes you just want to say, let's get some field position, get a couple of first downs, and kick it out of there and move on.
Yeah, I mean, had they had the offensive line that Devin referred to with Treader and Joe and all those guys, then you might have felt better about the situations on the field where they decided to throw. But like the end of the first half against the Ravens, the way they frittered that
frittered.
Yeah. They kind of wasted that game and all that good work in the first half by putting him in a position to throw the ball three straight times
terrible.
behind a not very
seconds.
Good offensive line.
Yeah.
It didn't make any sense.
Northeast Factory Direct, East, West, and South. They've got them in addition to the great website, northeastfactorydirect.com. We keep talking about prices. Well, that's one thing, because you're going to pay a lot less than you're going to pay at the big box stores because the rent is way down, and Alex passes the savings on to you. But if you're looking for a hot tub, cabinets, they've got them. And there's no better selection, not just price, no better selection of what you'll find at northeastfactorydirect.com. Sokolowski's University Inn, you talk about great places in this town. This is one of them. Always listed up there with the best restaurants in town, 11 to 3 Monday through Friday. But I was there last week on a Thursday afternoon. And a guy comes up, recognized me, came up to me, and he said, hey, I've lived here all my life. I've heard you talk about Sokolowski's for over 20 years. It's the first time I got here. And I said, you're going to be back? He says, not till Monday. So
it is a fabulous place.
It's a fabulous place, and it's on you if you don't know about it and you waited too long to get there. Mike and Bernie Sokolowski's University Inn. When we come back, Facebook question of the day and more. How come Quickies a little bit later? More Sports and Les-Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
Get Nature's Stone and never replace your basement flooring again. Your concrete is uneven, damp, and not healthy. Carpet and tile don't last, breed mold and mildew, and give worthless warranties. Nature's Stone permanently corrects uneven concrete and is not affected by dampness or moisture. And with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty, there are no hidden maintenance costs. Act now and save up to 50% with our volume discount pricing. Must be installed by the end of January. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com. It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature's Stone.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
It's the biggest party for the biggest game at Churchill's Bourbon and Brew at Presque Isle Downs and Casino. Watch the game on our big screens. Enjoy our $20 all-you-can-eat tailgate buffet and win on giveaways throughout the game. Plus, we've got Bet America swag beginning at 10 a.m. when you make a wager on the big game. Make your reservations today at 814-866-8353. Presque Isle Downs and Casino. Winning any way you look at it.
Let's take a look at this date in Les-Levine history. When Les hears that Bobby Garrett was drafted, he figures that in the future the Kansas City Royals will still be able to decode the signals.
They'd be cheating like the Astros.
Yes.
I got you.
216-575-0403 is the number to call. We have a Facebook question of the day and the responses therein. And let's take a look at it. We have a question each and every day. Is it time to cut ties with Kareem Hunt? Glenn Berger says it's possible that Dorsey provided Hunt a support system. We'll never know. Now that Dorsey is gone, Hunt needs some help. Hopefully the Browns will be able to help him. Hunt could really be a key player for the Browns. I say keep him. Dave Shoup, probably not. Marijuana is becoming an accepted substance in this country. The next contract probably will reflect that. Lawrence Butler says keep him. Didn't they give Gordon 12 chances?
What does he know?
What does he know? Ed Arlen, need to dump the cancer from the team right now. I'd never heard that he was a problem in the
No,
club,
I don't think
room.
he's a problem in the locker room by any stretch, from what I understand. But it's also not just a marijuana thing. It's another bad choice by a guy who's made bad choices, and there's alcohol involved when he was in alcohol counseling.
Alex from Euclid wants to remind us, he wants to wish us all a happy Hugh Jackson Day on Friday, which is 1/31.
Aha. Can I say something?
No.
Real quickly?
Of course.
Okay. When Devin called, we were talking about the drafts and Sashi, and he makes a point which he says 19 of the 23 or whatever guys are still playing somewhere. Well, some of them were really high draft picks who got cut, and if they're bit players somewhere else, I don't think that that's necessarily a big deal. So I'm going to say this. The 2016-2017 draft, top 5 picks in 16. Corey Coleman, Ogba, Nassib, Sean Coleman, Cody Kessler. That's not a great class.
No.
All right? Garrett, 17. Garrett, Peppers, Njoku, Kaiser, Ogunjobi. Better class, but if we believe what we were told or what we think we know, the front office in this case wanted Mitch Trubisky at number 1 over Myles Garrett. So I don't think this is enough of a glowing class to say that the front office didn't contribute to that 1 in 31. That's all I'll say.
The jury is still out on all of them.
It was still Hugh. I'll attach most of it to Hugh Jackson.
Okay, do you have your Sharpie ready? Because we're going to take a break. When we come back, get you ready to do your voting, your
How Come Quickie?
Yeah, the ratings.
Okay.
How Come Quickies. And we want good ones because I'm trying to recreate about 1,000 of them for my book.
You're doing a book?
I don't know. I'm thinking about it.
Huh.
I haven't read any.
Wouldn't you do it on your long, illustrious career and the people that you've met?
Well, you're assuming it's a long. Yes, it is long.
Instead
it's
of something so frivolous as How Come Quickies?
Well, what am I most famous for?
Okay. How Come Quickies?
We'll take a break. We'll come on back. We'll check out some quickies with Bud Shaw. More Sports and Les-Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
Get Nature Stone and never replace your garage flooring again. Your concrete is cracked, uneven, and not safe. Paints and poly coatings don't last, are slippery, and give worthless warranties. Nature Stone permanently corrects cracked, uneven concrete, eliminates slipping hazards, and is easy to clean. And with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty, there are no hidden maintenance costs. Act now and save up to 50% with our volume discount pricing. Must be installed by the end of January. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com. It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature Stone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget, Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Tomorrow night, the D-Man, Dennis Maniloff, will be here from WTAM Radio. And then on Monday, don't forget, Brian Anderson will join us. And Wednesday will be Dan Lobby from cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. Right, before we get bumped into grading these, we got a comment from Eastside Eddie. He says, Mayfield's setbacks last season were scheme setbacks. He's a three-step drop quarterback, and Freddie was given a deep guy in Beckham, and he was told he had to use him. You agree or disagree?
I saw some of that, yeah. I agree.
You're taking copious notes. What do you got?
No, that was my draft diatribe that I went on.
If a member of the Indians loses weight, was he on a diatribe? This is from somebody, Big Ed. Ready for this?
That was, on yours.
Or Big Ed's. You haven't seen Big Ed's yet. Okay.
No, that was on yours.
Oh, because it had a pun. It had a pun. How come when I asked my wife if she fantasizes about me, she said yes, about doing the dishes, the wash, and taking out the trash? It's a fantasy.
Yeah.
How come when I saw an ad, what do you got? 5.5.
Yeah, it's just a kind of a tired thing, the guy who doesn't do any housework kind of thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So he's taking out his problems on us.
Yeah.
Like we don't have enough of our own.
Exactly.
Big Ed continues on. How come when I saw an ad for burial plots, I said to myself, that's the last thing I'll need? It's not horrible.
No, it's not a pun, and I didn't see it coming. They're always better if I don't see them coming.
Apparently Mitch from Kent sent some in the other day, and they didn't reach us. So he's...
at least that's what Mitch was told.
Well, he's telling me somehow these quickies got lost on the way to you last week.
All right, let's see.
All right, hey Les and Bud, Mitch from Kent here. If the darkest hour is before dawn, then the lightest hour is before dusk. Don't cry over spilt milk, magnesium.
When Les has trouble reading them, they immediately get downgraded.
How come you don't need a watch to waste your time? How come I woke up this morning on my turntable feeling groovy? No.
I can see that you want me to give that a good... you had
I got to give you a secret.
You had a face that was begging a little bit.
I got to tell you something.
All right.
Truth be told, this is, in all honesty, I haven't lied knowingly to anybody.
Okay.
Knowingly. There's a move I made that allowed me to take a quick look at the clock to see how much longer we got to put up with this stuff. So I kind of...
7.9.
I just kind of went across.
Okay.
And it's like a pass, with a no-look pass.
Yeah, you're like the Patrick Mahomes of this show.
How come there's no playground when the court takes a recess? But I think by definition they got to have puns. And they have to be quick.
They have to be quick. I'll give that one an 8.5.
Okay.
I didn't mind that one.
All right, here we go. John
That's
Patrick.
my standard now. If I don't mind them.
John Patrick, this is apropos with Super Bowl week here. How come I'll bet I can quit gambling? I'm not looking. I don't want to deceive the audience. I don't want to con you into coming up with something.
I'll give.
Oh,
it
you
back.
just leaf through the papers.
Yeah. Unless one jumps out at me.
Right, you're just going to go with a retread.
Exactly. It's the more environmental way of.
Okay, so speaking of John, who says, I'll bet he can quit gambling. So D-Man is the point spread guy. So I forget what you said earlier.
Well, mostly I was just saying that I want to see Kansas City win the game. I do believe Kansas City will win the game. I just think they have they have so many offensive weapons.
Right.
And I think Mahomes is elusive enough that he's not going to get crushed by that defensive line.
High scoring, low scoring?
I think it'll be a fairly high-scoring game.
National anthem, long or short?
27-24, one of those. 24-21, one of those.
Okay.
That's how I feel about it. But I could also see where, if, Kansas City has gotten off to these horrible starts in these games where they're down 10-0.
Right, and the other teams are letting it back in.
If they get down
Not
like
against these
that
guys.
to these guys with that zone running scheme that they have, it's going to be
Do you think Cleveland fans have a little empathy for them, the fact that they haven't won? They won 50 years ago. Do you think they'll root for them for that way?
Probably. I wonder if they would root against Shanahan because he stood up and said, "Get me out of town."
Everybody understood.
Do you think?
Oh yeah.
All right. How about that as your next Facebook question?
I'll think about that. Brian, think about that.
Are you hold it against Kyle Shanahan for wanting out of Cleveland?
That's a silly question.
Would you want John Dorsey's last team to win a championship with John Dorsey's players? Who's the more sympathetic figure in this town?
Just roll them up.
Dorsey or Shanahan? See that list? See, I'm
yeah,
trying to
you're
contribute
really good at
to
that.
this show. I'm not really good at it. I just threw three out there.
I'm trying to think, are people at the point on Stefanski that they don't care one way or the other, let's just get the season started?
I think so. I think everybody's really numb to it.
Yeah.
I do. And that's not to say he wasn't impressive. I just think everybody's like, all right, we've gotten excited about this before.
Yeah.
As recently as a year ago with a guy who was saying, whoop the hell.
Let's get it on quickly so we can get to the point of the season that we give up on Francisco-Lindor. That's what we're waiting for.
There's a happy thought.
That'll do it for us. I'll see you tomorrow with the D-Man, Dennis Manilov. Brian Anderson on Monday. Dave Bacon will be out at Presque Isle over the weekend. That'll be terrific. See you tomorrow. Of all the shows I've ever done, this was the most recent.